Hello and welcome back to Bits and Bobs. In today's video we're going to be talking about and discussing all of the Jubilee head coins and coinage that was released for the Golden Jubilee of Queen Victoria. This portrait of Victoria was designed in 1837 by William Wyon and was first appearing on coins in 1838. It is known as the young head portrait or bun head portrait. Now here's a coin from 1887, 50 years later, with the same portrait. Victoria was 69 years old and had not aged in 50 years from her teenage portrait. The reason why? Well, would you want to tell Victoria she needed a new portrait because she's aged? Probably wouldn't be the job anyone rushes to do. And so nothing really happened for 50 years, with the portrait staying the same. Now, luckily, the Golden Jubilee was going to be held in 1887, with festivities and celebrations all up and down the country for Victoria's 50 years on the throne. And so it was proposed, to mark the occasion, a new portrait of Victoria, a new coinage effigy, would be minted onto the coins in order to celebrate the Jubilee. And of course, this image can now be a little bit more closer to real life how Victoria actually looked. The portrait features her wearing a necklace and lots of brooches and beads on her clothing, a veil at the back of her head, and some earrings with a small crown on top of her head. And it was designed by Sir Joseph Edgar Boham. It's popular today, but back in the time people weren't as thrilled with it, as they say the crown was too small, making it look a bit unrealistic. Now the farthing, halfpenny, and penny, the copper coins or the brass coins, didn't actually receive the Jubilee head portrait. Since 1860 they had been using this portrait of Victoria, and that would stay on the coins throughout the Jubilee period when it all changed to the veiled head portrait. So it just sort of carried on with the young head on that over the Jubilee period. But the Jubilee head portrait did appear on the silver and gold coinage in Britain from 1887 onwards. And the designs also on the reverse changed. For instance, here is an 1886 threepence, featuring of course the young head portrait. The 1887 one has the same design on the reverse. This is one of the few designs that didn't change, on the reverse that is, but of course on the obverse the new Jubilee portrait was introduced for this coin. The sixpence in 1886 featured this design by Jean-Baptiste Malin with the word sixpence and the wreath around it, and of course this one featured the young head portrait too, but in 1887 the sixpence got this design for the Jubilee especially on the reverse. The quartered arms with the royal shield, crowned with the Order of the Garter surrounding, and of course the obverse featuring the Jubilee head of Queen Victoria. Now the shilling had the very similar design to the sixpence, only difference being a bigger coin and the words 1 shilling instead of 6 pence, and this one of course as well featured the young head until the Jubilee year 1887, when this design was also used on the sixpence and shilling, so it's a double whammy with both of them having that design, and of course both of them, as with all the silver coins, featuring the Jubilee head. This was the Florin at the time from 1886, featuring the Gothic design on the reverse, and of course on the obverse featuring the Gothic portrait of Queen Victoria, so a different portrait that hadn't been used. For those unaware, the date is in Roman numerals on the right hand side, which is 1886 for this coin, and next year it changed to this design, 4 shields, each crowned, with 4 scepters in between, and the Garter star in the middle, released as the date says at the top in 1887 for the Jubilee, and had the Jubilee head portrait, with a slightly different legend around it with only 3 words, Victoria di Gratia, as more of the legend was on the reverse this time. The half crown prior to the Victorian Golden Jubilee was this design here with the quartered arms crown shield and laureates each side, and of course, as you I'm sure can guess, the 1886 one featured the portrait of young Victoria, the young head portrait or bun head, but then in 1887 this wonderful design was released onto the half crown for the Jubilee, crowned quartered arms, royal shield in the middle with the Order of the Garter around it, some lovely designs around that, the legend around that, and the date at the bottom either side of a George and the Dragon depiction. And of course, as I'm sure you can guess, the Jubilee head portrait featuring on the obverse of this coin. With all the celebrations going on, a new denomination was also released into the coinage. This new denomination only lasted 4 years, and therefore all of these coins have the Jubilee head portrait on the obverse. So then, what is this mysterious coin? Very similar to the florin, it is a double florin. The double florin was bigger than the florin obviously, with the silver weight being the main driver of the price and value of the coin, and it was worth double a florin, which is quadruple or 4 shillings. A 4 shilling coin released in 1887 with the Jubilee head. It wasn't very popular as a coin, as there was already a 5 shilling piece, which was very similar in size, so a 4 shilling piece didn't really fit in, but it is a cool historical anomaly. Onto the crown now, that 5 shilling piece I was talking about, featuring this same design as the half crown on the coins prior to the Jubilee, and of course, goes without saying, the young head portrait or bun head portrait before the Jubilee portrait was introduced. 1887 saw the return of Benedetto Petrucci's George and the Dragon design to the crown. First appearing on the crowns of George III and on George IV, it now returned to the Victorian crowns with the Jubilee head on the obverse of the coin, and remained to the veiled head portrait as well. Now, as you may know, the crown was the largest silver coin, so now we'll move on to the gold coins of Victoria Jubilee era. This is a pre-Jubilee half sovereign, and notice there is no date on the reverse here, with a lovely shield design in the middle though. and of course that is because the date would be on the obverse of the coin under the young head or bun head portrait of Queen Victoria. That is in 1886, but in 1887 the design stayed the same, but the date was moved to the reverse of the coin. Why is this? Well, it is of course because the Jubilee head portrait was of course now added to the gold coins, and I must say it looks very, very nice in gold, especially on the obverse of some of the larger gold coins. So that's the design change to the half sovereign. The rest of them, the sovereign, double sovereign, and 5 sovereign, remained the same, as the date was already on the reverse because it had that design of Benedetto Pesciuti, and therefore they could just implement the new Jubilee head portrait onto the rest of the sovereign range. A few other things to mention: in 1887 there was a sort of a crossover period. At the start of the year they minted coins with the usual designs as you see here, and previously some half crowns and shillings still with the old designs from 1887, and then of course the new designs were brought out. Here is a Maundy set from 1886 featuring the young head, bun head portrait. And can you guess what happened to the Maundy coins in 1887? That's right, after the Jubilee year, all the Maundy coins too featured the Jubilee head and then went to the veiled head. And in 1888 was the only year for decades and none after that the Groat was minted once again, and the Groat minted that year did also feature the Jubilee head. So there we go, that is a summary of the Jubilee coinage. Please comment down below if you prefer the design looks in gold or in silver. It's a very hard choice and I can't make my mind up. While you're down there commenting, of course, please do subscribe if you haven't already, as it's so appreciated by us here at the channel. And last thing to do is thank you very much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you next time on Bits and Bobs. Bye.